Hey everyone, it's time to engage. I'm going to go over each of the emblem rings in Fire Emblem Engage, talk about what skills they have, how good those are, and give you some ideas for good and fun builds you can use. Hopefully there's going to be a little something for everyone here, whether you're new to Engage or not, and whether you're playing on normal, hard, or maddening. Today we're going to discuss the Emblem of Echoes, Celica. As always, we'll start with the sync skills, the things you get for free without even engaging. The first thing Celica users get is Holy Stance. Whenever your unit is attacked by a corrupted enemy, deal 10% of damage taken back to the foe. This skill is absolute trash, since it has too many prerequisites. Even when you get better versions, it's still not that good. None of them make up for the fact that you have to be fighting a corrupted and you have to get hit. Resonance is better though. If your unit is equipped with a tome and they have 2 or more HP, they will lose 1 HP at the start of combat and then deal plus 2 damage, plus 3 for Resonance Plus. This is a small but nice damage bonus. A loss of 1 HP is rarely going to break the bank, while plus 2 or plus 3 damage can easily be the difference between killing and not killing. It's pretty nice. Next on the menu is Favorite Food. When your unit eats a packed lunch from the cooking activity in Somniel, they will max out their engage meter. If you remember to pack a lunch on your Celica user, this can be a great way to refill your engage meter after running out without having to go to an emblem pool. Your unit does have to be damaged, but with resonance that should not be too difficult to accomplish. The absolute best part of these abilities, in my opinion, is how wonderfully they match with Celica and the way she plays in Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia. If you've played that game, I'm sure you'll appreciate the references as much as I do. Celica's free step bonuses are spread between strength, magic, and resistance, giving off the impression of a mixed attacker that uses both physical and magical weaponry. She definitely got the shorter end of the stick when it comes to stat bonuses, but the extra magic is still very nice to have, and it synergizes with resonance and the strong magical attacks we're about to discuss. Because Alm isn't in this game to stop you, you can engage with Celica to unlock some more interesting abilities. First of all, there's her engage skill, Echo. Echo allows you to split your attack, with each of your attacks dealing 50% damage with no moving around in between. That doesn't sound like a big deal, but there are a lot of nice plays you can do with this. You can pick off 2 weakened enemies instead of 1 if you don't need all of your attack power, or you can use other means to squeeze more damage out of your 2 separate attacks. For example, when a mystical unit uses Echo, they gain a 10% damage boost, so you're dealing 2 attacks at 60% damage, for a total of 120% damage. Chain attacks also work on each Echo attack, and you can also apply debuffs this way. Celica also has several magical attacks to use when you're engaged. Seraphim is a tome that's effective against corrupted enemies, such as in her joining chapter and during most of the late game. Against living enemies, Seraphim is about as strong as regular tomes. But while regular tomes can be refined with ore you get every chapter, Seraphim's might can only be increased with the very limited crystals, likely once per playthrough. If you get Celica to Bond level 10, you can also use Recover. It's just a really powerful heal, guaranteed to get your units to full HP during the early game, while also granting a nice amount of EXP and SP. During the late game, this probably won't be very useful, since the actual recover staff is buyable, and you're likely not really looking to grind EXP anymore. At Bond level 15, you'll get Ragnarok. This looks like a really powerful spell at 15 might, but it's quite useless in practice. By the time you unlock it, you have access to Bolganon, which starts out stronger and then becomes significantly better with refining. Also, by the time you unlock Ragnarok, almost every enemy you face is corrupted, so you will deal more damage with Seraphim anyway. However, I know you're not here for any of those middle-of-the-road spells. You're here for the most spectacular tool in Celica's arsenal by far, her engage attack, Warp Ragnarok. This attack allows you to warp the user 10 spaces, and then use the aforementioned Ragnarok on the unsuspecting enemy. If that sounds ridiculous, that's because it is, and if it sounds super fun to use, that's because it is. Depending on your subclass, you might get a bonus effect as well. Some of Celica's benefits, such as the regular Ragnarok spell, are locked behind bond levels higher than 10. In order to unlock them, you'll have to beat her Divine Paralogue. This Paralogue becomes available fairly late in the game, but I think this is the easiest and shortest one of them all. Celica will rush you down with Warp Ragnarok if you step into her large attacking range, and it is trivial to just take her down on turn 2. It's almost like the developers wanted this to be over quickly. Speaking of wanting things to be over quickly, let's speed round Celica's inheritance options a bit because there's not too much to find here. All of Celica's sync skills are up for grabs: Holy Stance, Resonance, and Favorite Food. I've already made it clear I'm not a big fan of Holy Stance as a skill, period. Resonance's 2 damage boost to tome attacks is nice, but 2000 SP is a steep cost, and the same goes for its bigger brother Resonance Plus. The fact it doesn't even work with a magical weapon like the Levin Sword is not helping here. The high SP cost is also why I would recommend against Magic Plus inheritance. Tome Precision is cheaper, but it also gives you very little benefit. Favorite Food is more interesting because it's very cheap at 200 SP, making it easy to inherit during the early game. And the benefits are obvious. Refilling your engage meter anywhere you want can greatly increase the amount of uptime your engage has. For me, the trouble is that A, you don't always get a packed lunch when cooking, B, the unit needs to have a spare turn to eat it after losing engage meter, and C, they have to be damaged in order to use it, which is not a guarantee. That said, I personally usually play with very little planning, so with a little foresight, you should be able to make better use of this than I've been able to. Then there's Celica's Engrave, which is unique. At the cost of -1 might, it will reduce a weapon's weight by 1, while also granting plus 50 dodge, also known as crit avoid. This will make the unit wielding it pretty much crit proof, which can be helpful in segments of the game where enemies seem to have a little more crit than you can negate, such as during the mid game. Celica's is arguably the worst Engrave in the game, but if you're one of these people that just cannot seem to avoid getting crit by enemies, here's your solution. Now let's get into builds. What kind of units work best when equipped with Celica's Emblem Ring? As always, this is not supposed to be a complete list of things you can do with Celica, just a place to get started. Some of these builds are trying to max out Celica's potential, and some are just for fun. Let's get the obvious out of the way first. Mystical units. This is what the game clearly wanted to show off with Celica and Celine's joining map. Mystical units have a small damage bonus with both Echo and Warp Ragnarok, and they benefit from Celica's magic stat bonus as well as resonance. During the early game, you've probably kept Celica on Celine, and without knowing it, you've seen all these boosts in action. This synergy extends into units that use magic but are not mystical, such as Mage Knights. Mage Knight is a great class for any magic unit to be in, and Celica pairs well with them even though there are less subclass bonuses to be found here. So maybe you're using Ivy, Clan, Celine, Citrine, Pandreo, or you've reclassed someone else to a magical class such as Anna. These can all make great use of Celica. That said, while they might be the best unit for the Celica ring, Celica might not necessarily be the best emblem for them. There are other emblems that work on magical attackers, such as Erica, Marth, Micaiah, and Byleth, and depending on the situation and the units, they often work even better. If you're looking for something more unorthodox, I recommend trying Celica on Alir. The Dragon subclass always has interesting bonus effects, and in Celica's case, it's a flat attack range increase on Echo and Warp Ragnarok. With most tomes, you'll be able to attack from 3 tiles away. This increases your flexibility a lot, and might also make it easier to position Alir in such a way that you can make use of their personal skill, Divinely Inspiring. Other than that, I'm afraid there isn't too much to say in the builds with Celica, so let me get to my conclusion. Celica starts out as one of the most exciting emblems because Warp Ragnarok is just so much fun. The developer who decided you should get the ability to warp around like that as early as chapter 4 deserves a medal. Celica's kit provides options that are powerful but still require some care in how you use them, or you can get punished, especially with mages not being all that durable. But when used to full effect, it's so satisfying. You can use Celine to help out Louise and Chloe, you can teleport Yunaka on top of a mountain and distract a bunch of enemies, you can use Echo to finish off multiple enemies at once. It doesn't hurt that magic in Echoes is just so nice in general, given the prevalence of enemy armors with absurd defense. That said, I think early game is when Celica peaks, both in terms of raw power and how fun she is to use. Because when she's available again in the late game, your other tools surpass the ones that she offers. Warp Ragnarok is no longer unique. You get other ways to teleport units around the map, such as the Warp and Rescue Staves. It's still nice to have an extra unit who can teleport, but it doesn't add as much as it does early on. Another indirect nerf to late game Celica is that due to the increased enemy bulk, Warp Ragnarok will not be one at KOing enemies nearly as frequently. You would think that Seraphim is helpful against the increasingly common Corrupted, but with only 6 might and limited ways to upgrade it, it doesn't get you very far. Similarly, Holy Stance technically helps against Corrupted, but since it's a bad skill, it really doesn't. So don't be too surprised when during the late game you don't get much use out of Celica. Just enjoy her great early game presence when you can, and try her out on a Leer if you haven't already. That's the most spoiler-free way I can give that advice. Wink wink. Of course, it's possible I missed something, in which case please enlighten me in the comments and drop a like and or a sub if you're down there, or come nitpick my scripts for these on the Discord server. Thanks to everyone who's been helping out with that so far, and extra thanks to those who make this series possible. My Patreons on Patreon, and my editor Athena. And of course, thank you for watching.